Hi everyone, my name's Michelle and I'm an Adult Services Librarian at Lafayette Public Library, and today I'm going to show you how to use a software program called Tinkercad. Tinkercad is a fully online software program that you can use to create 3D objects for 3D printing. So this program is made by a company called Autodesk, who do a number of different what's called CAD programs, computer-aided design programs. So, but this one's free to use. It also has an iPad app. If you have an iPad, you can download a Tinkercad app in the Apple Store. So to get started, we're going to double-click on a web browser. I use Google Chrome. You can use any web browser you would like. Okay, and once your screen loads, you're going to click up at the top at the URL bar and click backspace and then type tinkercad.com. Press enter. All right, and so now you're brought to this screen. If you already have an account, you can click sign in and it'll bring you to this page. If you don't already have an account, you can join Tinkercad and create a personal account. You can sign up with email or with your Google account or your Apple ID. I already have an account, so I'm going to sign in. I'm going to click email. I'm going to type in my email address. Doesn't have to be in all caps. All right. And so here we see any designs that I've made. So you can see I have some things I designed when I first got an account. These are more like paperweights, just kind of fooling around with the different shapes that are in Tinkercad. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to create a keychain, sort of like this one here. So what you'll do first is click Create New Design. Okay, and so the screen's loaded and you can see this little checkbox here, these grids. That's the work surface. This is where you're going to design your object. This is sort of like the paper for your design. Over here on the side, we have a number of different objects that you can click and drag onto the work surface. There's pyramids, polygons, hearts, stars, even like a isodecahedron for like a dice. Okay, so what we're going to do today is create the little keychain. So I'm going to start by left-clicking and dragging a box onto the work plane. So here's our box. It's like a little cube. Very cool. Okay, if you click on the box, you see these different little handles, sort of like what you see in word processing or different things where you have to manipulate images. They have these little boxes. They're called handles. So this would be the same concept. I'm going to click on one, and you see there's some different arrows come up. So this is telling me that this is 20 millimeters wide and 20 millimeters this way as well. So I may not want my object to be 20 millimeters. I think I want mine to be 15. So I'm going to click 15 and 15, and it automatically sizes it to 15 millimeters. You can change if you'd rather work with inches, but millimeters is what our software uses to actually run the 3D printers, so it's probably easier to work with millimeters and just use a unit converter if you're unsure of how big your object's going to be. You know, we're making a keychain, so we don't want it to be that large, you don't want it to be huge, so I'm just keeping it at 15 millimeters. Okay. Well, if we look at it, now our box is kind of skinnier, but it's still 20 millimeters tall. So to adjust the height of any object, I'm going to click the top handle, the white box, and you see the arrows show me that this is doing up and down in 3D space. So when I click on it, I'm going to change this to 5 millimeters. So we don't want our keychain to be very tall. We may want it to be wide. You can make it as wide as you want, but you don't want it to be very tall because you do have to fit a key ring through it or a clip or something to make it be useful, right? So now I have a box that's 5 millimeters tall and 15 millimeters on either side. Okay. And to move your work plane around, you'll just click the right mouse button and drag your mouse up and down, and the work plane will move with you. So you can see all sides, even at the bottom, which may be helpful sometimes, and we'll see that later, that it'll be helpful to see underneath our object to make sure that it's going to come out the way we intend it to. Okay. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to bring out a cylinder and bring it by my box. Again, when you let go, the handles appear. So I'm going to change this to 15. Whoops. And 15. Okay. And I'm going to right click and drag so that I can get it lined up. I'm going to click this and change the height to be 5 millimeters, so it'll be the same height as the cube. Okay, so and once you line it up, which is left click and you can drag it, oh, not like that. Okay, and click on it. You can adjust how it is with your arrow keys on your keyboard also. Sometimes that's easier if you just need it to move a millimeter at a time like I am now. So I'm going to adjust that. Okay, now with all of the handles visible like this, I want to duplicate this shape. I want to make another one to go on the other side of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the top where it says duplicate and repeat. It looks like some paper. I'm going to click that. And as you see, the handles kind of flashed. That means that it duplicated the object. And so we're going to take the arrow keys and move the object to the left like this. And you can adjust these cylinders like you want. If you want them to be, you know, a little bit out, or if you want to line it up to where it meets like this. Okay, so now we have our box with our 2 cylinders on the side, and if we hold down the right mouse button, excuse me, and move the work plane around, you can see it from all angles to make sure that's what you want it to look like. And now we're going to do what's called group the object, which is where the program will take all of the shapes that you selected and combine them into one solid object. So to do that, we're going to take the left mouse button and click and drag around the object that you want to group. So you saw the red box that appeared around the object. You can also know you did it right because all of the handles will show up and it'll be around the whole object. It won't try to differentiate between the different shapes. Next, we're going to go up here to the top and click Group. And as you see, the screen flashed, and now the object is one color. So you know that the object is grouped, and you can look around and see how it looks. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to make a hole for your lanyard or your keychain, your key ring, whatever it is you want to attach this to. And over here in our shape selector, we have all of these different shapes. So, but these here at the top that look like they're striped, that means that they're what's called a hole. These are commonly used holes, so that's why they're kind of like defaults. They're by themselves up here. But these will basically delete whatever space it takes up, if that makes sense. So I'm going to take a cylinder and left click and drag it onto the work plane. And you can see it's clear, so that's how you know you selected a hole, and it'll also select up here where it says hole. So I know I don't want my hole to be 20 millimeters wide, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to change it to 3 millimeters on both the X and Y axis. And now if you look, you see we have a very thin, tall object here, our hole. And that's okay because the hole has to go through the entirety of this object, and to make it delete all of the stuff that's there. So we have to, this helps us adjust it when it's larger, so much larger than the object that we're trying to make a hole out of. Okay, so when we right click and drag down, you can see the hole is all the way through the object, but I'm going to show you from the side how to, if it's not all the way through, how to do it. So when you click on the object, a number of little arrows come up. We're going to select this big arrow down here. This drags your object in space up and down. So this way you left click and drag down, and you can see the hole is moved through the object, and when you click off of it, it looks like a little paper towel roll sort of stuck through it. But that's what we want, so that it will cut a hole. I'm going to adjust this using the arrow keys. I'm going to click on the hole, then click the arrow keys in the direction that I want the hole to be. And so now I'm going to left click and drag and click group one more time. And now you see there's a hole in our keychain, which is good. Yay! You can make any shape a hole. So if you want to make a star, you can drag out a star, make it a hole, and then change it to whatever size you want. And then you can have a star hole if you want. It's up to you. That's the great thing about doing stuff on Tinkercad, is you can make it your own design. So let's say, you know, I'd rather have the star than the circle. What I can do is left click and select the object, and then click ungroup, which is this other button here. And as you see, the object flashes, and it will undo the last grouping that you did, which was our hole. And so I can delete this by pressing the delete key on the keyboard. Okay, and then I'm going to regroup the object by selecting and clicking group. And now I have a star hole in my keychain. Okay, so the next part is customization. You can do a number of things. Sky's the limit, really, as to what you put on your keychain. There's all of these basic shapes you can put. There's also text and numbers. So if you want to put your initials, you can drag your initials out, or you can write something. If you want to do individual letters, you can drag out each individual letter, but you will have to place each individual letter in relation to the other letters. If you wanted to type out a name or a word, you can click the text option and drag it out. And it's more like word art, where you can change the text to be whatever you want. You can put your name, or maybe what kind of keys are on the key ring, or you know, whatever kind of stuff you want to do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change the color of the text, because just to help me see it better. You don't have to. If you don't want to, it's not going to affect what color it is when it's printed. This is just to aid you in the design process. So I have keys here. I'm going to drag it down to my finished object, or the base object, I guess, and adjust the size of the text to be what I want it to be, or how I want it to look. Don't want to get it too close to the hole. Here we go. Okay. And so this is how it looks. I'm going to delete this H real quick. Pressing the delete key. Okay. Then I'm going to left click and select and group. And now my object is one color, so that means it's one group. It's one object. If I say I don't want it to be raised up like this, you can do a number of things. I'm going to ungroup. When you look at it, you can adjust up and down. Oh, not that way. Let's undo that. If you click on the letters and you see how the box looks different, you can adjust it up and down. If you do it like this, where you can see the letters through the bottom, it's going to print it on either side. If you make it the object a whole, like this, it'll cut all the way through, similar to how we did the star earlier. So if we group it like this, it looks like that when it's done. So it'll be like each letter is a whole. But if you don't want to do that, or alternatively, you could take the arrow here and drag up once you have the letter selected. And if you notice, there's a little dotted line down here. I'm going to hit Control to bring attention to it. This is the bottom of the other object. So you can see how it moves up and down. And so this way, it's about halfway through the side, so that when you group, it's not cut all the way through. So you see at the bottom, all you see is the star that we made as a whole. But the top is going to be cut out, but only halfway. So it's going to look more embossed, like you carved it out of the plastic. So that's kind of cool. It just depends on what you want to do. Okay, so we've got our object designed how we like. Okay, so now what do we do in order to print it at a regional library? Well, first, what you might want to do, Tinkercad automatically saves all of your work on the web, in the cloud, as it were, but it names it random words. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but this up here at the top is the name of your project. So if I click this, I can change the name of it so I know what it is. You know, and that's really just for you. You don't have to change it if you don't want. Next, what I'm going to do is I want to save this object to my computer so that I can put it on a jump drive to bring it to the library. So what you do next is you go up here to the top where it says Export, and you see the little menu says Download in 3D Print. And that's what you want to do when you're ready to share it with your local library. So we're going to click Export. It gives you an option, include everything in the design. Usually it defaults to that, but that's something that if you have more than one thing on the work plane, you're going to have to select what it is exactly you want to print. But right now, everything in the design is okay. We take STL files here at the library. So we're going to click STL. And if you see at the bottom here, your 3D print file will download. And then you'll put it onto, it should probably default to your downloads folder. It just depends on how your computer is set up. But then you would put this file onto your jump drive and bring it to the library, and we can 3D print it for you. So that's pretty great, right? All right. Well, if there's something that you see online that you would like to import, You do that by coming up here where it says import, and you can put an SVG file, STL, or OBJ file imported into Tinkercad. Tinkercad is sort of a simplistic design program, so it does have limits. You can't do very complicated things with it, but it's usually good for if you're starting out and you're learning how to 3D model. This is a good starting place. Alrighty, well, and you click the rainbow up here to go back to your home screen. And as you see, you can see all my projects, and House Keys is saved right alongside the other keychains and clips I've designed, or I've imported. This is something I imported, but, and so yeah, now you have designed your first object for 3D printing.